Hello everyone and welcome to the Eifel region of Germany, and this is round 6 of the Ferrari Challenge for 2024. We are here at the Nürburgring on the GP circuit. This is what Nürburgring looks like then from a very high shot in a beautiful part of Germany. And of course the circuit is steeped in history and mystique and heritage. Absolutely phenomenal places. I mentioned it's round 6, having been to Le Castellet, Portimao, Jerez, Balaton and Mugello, where it all kicked off, and it will conclude 16th to the 20th of October in Imola, which will be round 7 of our 2024 season. So, what can I tell you about the GP configuration of the Nürburgring? Well, it's quite undulating. It's 5.148 kilometers long, 15 turns, 6 of them left, 9 of them are right-handers. And quite a test for our Shell and 488 drivers, which are the drivers that will take to the track momentarily for their 30-minute plus 1 lap race. Weather conditions, well, the track temperature is 38 degrees. The air temperature is a really rather pleasant 24, with just 4 kilometers per hour of wind to try and take the heat out of that temperature, if that makes sense. Possibly it doesn't. So, there you can see what a busy place. The grid is ahead of the start of this Coppa Shell and 488 Challenge race. Remind you, 30 minutes plus 1 lap, round 6 of the season. In Coppa Shell for 2024, returning driver Thibaut Valin started off with a victory. But the main headline from that point onwards proved to be the battle between Henri Azid and Manuela Gosner. Engaged in fierce but fair battles, the two traded places and victories on multiple occasions throughout the early part of the 2024 campaign. And it was brilliant to watch.
I'm so happy about the race of today. The team deserves really this win because we are working a lot all this weekend through, and I'm super proud of everything we achieved.
In Portimao, John Dillon made his mark, giving him his first win in Coppa Shell in Europe, crowning a series of outstanding performances. At his home event in Le Castellet, Henri Azid was in full control, earning him the maximum points haul, and Henri Azid looking very good indeed in that 167 car.
Double win, double position, the pole position and double best lap. I think it's not possible to do a perfect weekend like this.
Well, Henri Azid says it all really. He leads the Drivers' Championship ahead of Manuela Gosner. Then it's Thibaut Valin, and John Dillon is P4 in the Drivers' Championship. And it's mathematically possible that Henri Azid can take the championship this weekend. Fabrizio Fontana has already sealed the 488 Evo Drivers' Championship, and he is missing from the 488 lineup for this weekend. So Fabrizio Fontana having done it at the last round. So, as I mentioned then, the grid is a very busy place indeed in the sunshine here at the Nürburgring. Sense of expectation and anticipation is right up there for this Coppa Shell and 488 Challenge race. So we have the Shell drivers in the 296 cars, some 17 of those, and we have 8 of our 488 Challenge Evo drivers. They both compete in the same race. However, they are, of course, classified differently. The Shell drivers you'll be able to identify because they drive the 296 car. The 488 drivers, quite clearly, drive the 488 car. And you can also tell by the fact that the Shell drivers have a yellow strip across the top of the windscreen, and the Friday drivers have a blue strip across the top of the windscreen. And full of smiles is Henri Acide, who we could see there. He goes from P1 on the grid. So Henri Acide having done a good job in qualifying. Ernst Kersmeyer is right alongside him, and it's high time I introduce my colleague alongside me. Local gig for him as well, Nico Spalek. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dave. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, welcome here to Coppa Shell and the 488 as we take a look into the car of Skelterman with the driver. The Shark's teeth-fronted 296, and Fons hasn't had it all his own way this year, has found it a little bit difficult to get on terms with the new car, but he is very high in terms of ambition.
You're absolutely right, and Thomas Gosner, high in terms of pace. We've seen some great pace from Thomas Gosner over the course of the season, and he certainly seems to have taken to the Nürburgring with aplomb as well. He, of course, is driving that 296 Shell car for CDP MP Racing. And yes, good to see Thomas Gosner. Now his daughter, Manuela Gosner, probably a row 2 start for Manuela is not where she wanted to be, particularly as she continues to chase Henri Acide in the Drivers' Championship. Henri, of course, has got the gun seat. He's in charge, and I've been very, very impressed with Andrzej Lewandowski, who has joined us, and he did really, really well in qualifying for Autohaus Ulrich, putting it P3, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. A great slate of newcomers into the Ferrari Challenge this weekend across all our categories almost, and Andrzej Lewandowski definitely one of those, and a row 2 start ahead of Manuela Gosner, really, really impressive.
Yes, a lot of impressive performances, including Motohiko Isozaki, one of his best qualifyings, I would have suggested. He goes from P7 on the grid. And the thing is, of course, the qualifying all took place on Friday in very different weather conditions to those that we have right now. This is Andreas Rizzi. He's going from P6 on the grid. And Andreas Rizzi then, with a lap time of 2:00.890, that gives him P6 starting position on the grid. So the 1-2-2 car, and they're into the, oh, that's a really evocative shot, and I bet you that's Thibaut Valent. No, it's Alexander Nussbaumer. I couldn't have been more wrong, could I? Alexander Nussbaumer then, who goes from P9 on the grid. There you go. Just when I thought I got it right. Never mind. Driving for Gome Motorsport, Haupt Racing Team, Alexander Nussbaumer. He goes from P9, and we'll see what he can do from that position on this Coppa Shell grid. It's an awesome, awesome grid with so many cars and so many talented drivers as well. There indeed is Thibaut Valent, then, driver of the 132 car, and I'm still convinced that the helmet we're looking at was of his. There's Thomas Gosner, who we've seen earlier on. And just ahead of him is the von Skelterman car. Now, the back end of the car looks like many 296 cars. The front end of the car looks altogether different because it always has those shark's teeth at the front. And believe me, they can bite. Okay, after this, we will be heading to Imola for Finale Mondiale.
Plenty going on just behind them as we head into turn number 1. Something of a pinch point. Max Micheli trying to make a move early on. Very, very good start, I believe, as we go through turn number 1 right now. Pushes himself through into P2 because he's got the inside line.
It will be an extraordinary event. Already the goosebumps going on my arms for the Finale Mondiale, which is an absolutely extraordinary occasion, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. It brings together all the activities of Ferrari, not only racing, but client activities. And obviously we will also have the Le Mans winning hypercar program here with us, or here, there. It's going to be great.
And the jingle identifies then that the Richard Mille safety car peels away from the grid of cars to start the formation lap for this Shell and 488 race. We will bring you the grid in full from back to front. And here it is, with Germano Salernitano going from P25 on the grid, one of our 488 drivers, as is Quinn Wittlisbach and Tommy Lindroth. They go from P23 and 24. From 22 and 21, it's Faisal Shayer and Pino Frascaro. From P19 and P20, it's Friedrich Müller and Nils Branson. Then it's Alexei Komarov. Well done, Alexei. Pole position in class. Ken Avis alongside him, and they're ahead of Thomas Loflad and Michael Martin. From P14, you'll find Ray Acosta and Christoph Herney is alongside. They're on row 7. On to row 6, where we find Tibor Valint and the returning James Weiland. Then it's Thomas Gosling and Alexander Nussbaumer. The danger men there, potentially, from row 5. And in front of them, von Skeltermeyer. And as I said, a great quali from Motohiko Isasaki. Andreas Rizzi and John Dillon. They too could be danger drivers from row 3 of the grid. Manuel Gosner and Andrzej Lewandowski ahead of, behind, Ernst Kirchmeier and Henri Assi, who puts it on pole position. And therefore, it's only right and proper that we should hear from the man that has the starting position, which is so numbered, P1.
Hi everybody. It was a nice qualify session. I did 5 laps at the beginning. It was a little bit wet on a few parts of the track. And I stayed in the pit lane waiting a best lap. And at the end of the session, I think the track was completely dry, so I went out and I did the pole position. Very nice, thank you.
Well done to Henri Assi. He did do that in his qualifying session, which is in very different, or was in very different weather conditions to those that we can see today. You see the orange and white and black car there of John Dillon. I want to give, John has had to really dig deep this weekend. It's been a difficult time, and I want to say hello to his daughters, Anika and also Jasmine, and also a special mention to Salsa. You will be missed. So John Dillon and his family digging deep, and John especially so, having done a really good job in qualifying. He goes from P5 on the grid. See what he can do from there. Nico, the sense of anticipation, expectation, and excitement is big.
Oh, absolutely. And we've got, as we saw, quite packed grandstands here. Lots of people coming to witness the Ferrari Challenge and all the activities all around it. And this is one of the races. Coppa Shell has never failed to deliver this season, and we expect this to be similar. We might see a champion at the end of the race, but it's too early to think about that. First, it's the start.
So the cars go side by side in grid formation. Then the Richard Mille safety car will peel off into the pit lane. And then it will be the responsibility of Henri Assi and Ernest Kirchmeier to control the pace of the rolling start. Now, let me tell you, turn number 1 here at Nürburgring, through many years of experience of being at this extraordinary circuit, is something of a funnel. You roll downhill into turn number 1, a hairpin right-hander almost. And we await the lights to go out. We throw them to the top of the screen, and the cars roll down towards turn number 1. It looked like it was a very, very good start from Ernest Kirchmeier, right alongside Henri Assi. Henri has got the inside line. However, Andrzej is looking lively too. Who is going to get the best out of this? Well, 1 or 2 cars getting caught out there, sadly. I did mention that it is something of a funnel. And, couple of cars have gone round. One of those is Tibor Valint, I believe. Another one could be von Skeltermeyer as well.
And also John Dillon, sorry for cutting across you. A little bit further up the road, it was John Dillon the wrong way around there. We can see the car as von Skeltermeyer continues.
Well, that's a great, great shame. So, well, there you can see the Thomas Gosner car. So that will have changed the shape of this race then. So we are being told that the 181 car has managed to get round again and get pointing in the right direction, but still on the opening lap here with Ernst Kirchmeier, of course, getting the better of Henri Acide, and the start he's under investigation. There's kind of no surprise there. Now, for Henri Acide, who will probably think about driving with his head, I mean, he's a racing driver and wants to win every single race. However, from points point of view, Ernst Kirchmeier and Andrzej Lewandowski, who are P1 and P3, kind of don't impact in terms of where Henri Acide is in the points. The criticality is Manuela Gosner, who Nico has dropped out of P10.
Yeah, she was one of the victims in that start sequence, and she didn't look like, even after that initial scene, didn't seem like she had the full thrust and momentum in the car. But, well, we will pick through all what happened, and then we will see where things stand. We understand that Henri Acide needs a few more points to be on the better side of Manuela Gosner to clinch the championship here. We'll go into that in a little bit, but the first race is in the books. Ernst Kirchmeier leading after he made a very, very good start and edged Ferrari into turn number 1.
Yes, first lap is indeed in the books then, and you can see that Andrzej Lewandowski is really, really keen. Right on the back of Henri Acide. Here is the order. It is Kirchmeier from Acide, from Lewandowski, from Rizzi, from Weiland. They are the top 5 in the Shell drivers. And Lewandowski then puts himself right alongside Henri Acide. Henri Acide has got the inside line right now, but Lewandowski, he just has to tuck in behind the car of Henri Acide. For the 488 drivers, it is Quinn Wiedlisbach leading from Tommy Lindroth and Friedrich Müller. So that means that Alexei Komarov, that started on pole position, has dropped way, way down the order as well, relatively speaking, in those 488 cars, which is a great shame because he'd done such a good job in qualifying. So Ernst Kirchmeier trying to stretch his legs a bit, and we can see a number of cars in the pit lane. One of those is the car of Michael Martin. We can see von Skeltermar in the pit lane as well. And, well, I regret to report that probably that's the same for Thibaut Valent and John Dillon, as well as Andrzej Lewandowski, who's currently running P3, has picked up a drive-through penalty, and not the only one, because the driver of car number 167 also getting a drive-through penalty, which is Henri Acide. Our Drivers' Championship points leader, Nico, gets a drive-through penalty for incorrect starting alignment.
Well, that is very, very interesting, and I understand we will get the replay of the start in but a few moments, so we will have a keen eye on what happened there.
Go on.
And generally the rule is you have to go through your grid box, even though it's a rolling start. And I think you could see there, you can see Henri Acide is certainly not within his grid boxes as he crosses the line. And
Nor was Andrzej.
And that's a slam dunk. And Andrzej, I mean, he followed Henri Acide, which generally is a good idea. In this case, it wasn't. And that all of a sudden puts Ernst Kirchmeier firmly in the, excuse the pun, driver's seat.
Now, Dillon here had got a really good start, was on the inside of Manuela Gosner, and then, well, gets Manuela Gosner right in the back. Thibaut Valent picking up some damage as well, you could see there. And bits of carbon fiber and cars going around, including von Skeltermar. So let's see it again. It's just a domino effect, wasn't it, of a number of cars there. Super slow-mo here. And that was contact there, and then Thibaut Valent and also Motohiko Isasaki in there. So too was the 152 car, 162 car, I believe, of Christoph Herney as well. Around went Pino Frascaro in the 488s in the 240. Now, initially, I thought that Alexei Komarov had got away well, but was tracking down there in the order now in P8 within class. We also just saw, before we went to this shot, I think, Manuela Gosner coming into the pit lane.
Yeah, I think she sustained some damage, which would explain why she didn't have quite the speed and momentum that she usually has. And just to go back to that replay, John Dillon, initially, he had that little bit of an incident, but he was able to continue, and it was only after the von Skeltermar car went around that he was turned around, or we didn't quite see it. He certainly was facing the wrong way a little bit further down the road, so whatever happened was another incident, or at worst a knock-on effect of the previous one. So there goes Henri Acide into the pit lane, and that means effectively, and there follows Lewandowski also into the pit lane, as we briefly saw Manuela Gostner closing the door. So there at the very bottom you could see her come out again, so she will continue. Yeah, that's going to be, I mean, that changes the complexion of this race big time.
Well, it does, and unfortunately the one person that could take real advantage of that in terms of Henri Assi picking up that drive-through penalty could have been Manuela Gostner, but unfortunately her into the pit lane hasn't helped the situation for her. She's not going to be able to maximize. So we're seeing an altogether different a different race to the one that we imagined that we would see. So Henri Assi then, he completes his drive-through penalty, so too does Andrzej Lewandowski. Meantime, this is our race leader, Ernst Kirchmayr, with a 2:01.679. He also, as if taking the points for the win, if he were able to hold on for the remaining 23 minutes plus 1 lap. He wants the fastest lap point as well. And he's got that at the moment, and Quinn Wittelsbach has got the fastest lap for our 488 challenge drivers. So it's Kirchmayr from Andreas Rizzi, from Jim Wyland, who is P3, ahead of Thomas Gostner, Christoph Herney. Then it's Thomas Loflad, Ken Abe, Alexander Nussbaumer. And Henri Assi has rejoined P9, with Lewandowski rejoining effectively P10. Now, Manuela Gostner did return out onto the track as well, but she's got a whole heap of 488 challenge cars ahead of her before she can make any inroads into those that are direct competitors, if you will, in the Shell category.
Yeah, and unfortunately she just lost a lot of time even before coming into the pits, and that means, combined with her stint in the pit lane, certainly means that she's not in the running for any of the top positions, barring any dramatic change to the race overall. So, Ernst Kirchmayr, Rizzi, Wyland, our top three, Thomas Gostner, Christoph Herney, Thomas Loflad, Ken Abe, Alexander Nussbaumer, those are the ones ahead of our two penalty-ridden Henri Assi and Lewandowski.
And Quinn Wittelsbach then in the 488 challenge is leading that race. And Ernest Kirchmayr, there you can see the Ferrari Miami car of the 107 driver, that's Ray Acosta. Now, Ray Acosta is currently running P12 in class, but that's quite some way down the order, because he's another driver that's got a whole gaggle of 488 cars ahead of him now. Quite clearly, the 296 car is a quicker car than the 488, as you would expect, but you've still got to thread your way past them all as well. And in terms of the 488 challenge race, it's Quinn Wittelsbach that's leading Tommy Linderoth and Friedrich Müller. Meantime, Ernest Kirchmayr then, he's got a margin of 5.2 seconds over Andreas Rizzi, and then Jim Wyland is a couple of seconds behind Andreas Rizzi. In fact, make that 4 and a bit seconds behind Andreas Rizzi. And James Wyland with Thomas Gostner perhaps for company, who's running in P4 at the moment. We're watching our race leader, Ernst Kirchmayr, who is a champion in the Ferrari Challenge in previous iterations. He knows how to make his way around the Nürburgring circuit, that's for sure. So the 201 car driven by Quinn Wittelsbach for CDP D&C Racing, and his best finish, I mean, he only made his debut in, memory serves me correctly, Le Castellet, where I think he took P4 in race 1, and then I think that was followed up by a P7, but here he is leading the race thus far, and Tommy Linderoth is in P2 now. The incident in turn 2 and the first lap is being noted by race control, which is the incident that you were talking about a little bit earlier on. So Quinn Wittelsbach doing a good job here in terms of building himself a bit of a margin between him in P1 and Tommy Linderoth in P2. The gap is about 1.6 seconds, as you can see from the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen. Race duration, well, we have 20 minutes remaining plus 1 lap for the Shell drivers and also the 488 drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And there you can see the 205 car going a little bit wide. That was Faisal Shayer, who is running in P3 and under pressure from Friedrich Müller, who is trying to get into that podium position in class. So that's something that bears watching. And obviously there in the background you could see a Shell car, and as you said, the 296 cars used by the Shell drivers is so much quicker.
And you can see as Ray Acosta exits the chicane, he is able to go through, isn't he? And the quicker he can do that, he'll be able to get himself on terms with other Shell drivers, Nico.
Yes, absolutely. So just over 10 or 11 minutes have elapsed, and our top 2 drivers in Shell have spaced out quite significantly with 5 and 6 seconds respectively, all as a result of the initial melee and then the penalties taken by the drivers in those gaps. So, but behind them, it's getting tighter and tighter, and one of those making it tighter is Henri Hassid, who just put in the fastest lap coming from P10, or P9 rather.
Tommy Lindroth, who's running P2 at the moment in the 488 Challenge race, is under pressure. And yeah, so Tommy Lindroth, as we can see, Henri Hassid now, next in his target sights is the car of Thibaut Valent. So you're right to point out just how quick Henri Hassid is. And he's taken a look at the inside of Thibaut Valent, but was not able to do so immediately. It's Alexander Nussbaumer, not Thibaut Valent. Thank you, Nico. 2 minutes, 6.78 from Henri Hassid, that fastest lap. So next in his target sights then very much is the car of Alexander Nussbaumer. Then it will be Ken Abe. Now, is Henri Hassid going to have a go going into the chicane here? Well, let's see. Don't think it's close enough to be able to do it. The car, they rattle across the curbs of this chicane, and of course, well, Alexander Nussbaumer is in his own race trying to overtake Ken Abe. And Henri Hassid, now I suspect we might see some action going into turn number 1. He's right on the back of Nussbaumer here. Live championship points. Well, even before we get really towards the braking zone for turn number 1, he's put himself to the inside. That gives him a superior line through there, and sure enough, that was textbook of how you can use turn 1 to make a move, and Henri Hassid did it. And next in his focus is Ken Abe. So very, very quick overtake there. He executed that. He was determined, and now he's determined to get past Ken Abe. And they go side by side here, and Henri Hassid, whew, like the proverbial hot knife through butter, Nico.
Yeah, it's just the quicker of the 3 in that instance, and Nussbaumer had it defended fairly well, but then a little bit of a sideways moment meant that he wasn't able to put the power onto the tarmac, didn't have the traction, as he needed no further invitation, was through, and thereby was able to cut on the inside and through the apex through turn number 2. So well done, and the further Henri Hassid climbs up the rankings, the more it will be interesting whether a championship can be clinched today or not. For the time being, it's still at least going to go into tomorrow.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So there is Henri Hassid, then running P7 right now for Kessel Racing. We run the telemetry on the Henri Hassid car so that you can see the performance that he is being able to extract from that wonderful 296 Challenge car that he is pedaling to aplomb at 220, make that 230, make that 240, make that 250 kilometers per hour, nearly 260 before heavy, heavy braking for the chicane. Henri Hassid is on a mission right now. So Thomas Loflad will be the next driver that he will come across, and he's about a second down on, make that 2 seconds down on Thomas Loflad. So Thomas Loflad, who's currently running P6. There you can just see the Thomas Loflad and Christoph Herney cars as they've gone through on our camera shot there. And there is Ken Abe and Alexander Nussbaumer. But there is the hard charge R167 of Henri Hassid, who had drive-through penalty. So he will just, every single lap that he will be delivering now will be like a quali lap in terms of the pace that he is able to put down. Now, Tommy Lindroth is P2 in the 488s, and Tommy Lindroth then very, very long-standing Ferrari Challenge competitor. He's got Faisal Shayer behind him, and Friedrich Müller, who we know how quick Friedrich Müller is. And Tommy Lindroth through turn number 1. Shayer takes a completely different line. You have got different lines available to you through turn number 1, but Tommy Lindroth choosing the optimum line there. Going across the curbs and onto the Astro isn't necessarily always the quickest way, which is what Friedrich Müller was trying to see. So Tommy protecting that P2 position that he has at the moment. In the meantime, Quinn Wiedlisbach has escaped up the road to the tune of almost coffee-making proportions so far up the order he is. Now there is Tommy Lindroth's driver coach, the young talented driver Fabienne Volvent, who certainly added to her racing pedigree with successful stints in the Ferrari Challenge, and now is able to pass on her knowledge to Tommy Lindroth. And I have to say, Nico, with no disrespect to other driver coaches that Tommy has had, it just seems that the relationship that Fabienne and Tommy have has brought out the very best in Tommy Lindroth, and we can see that in some of the results that he's had, not only this season, but last season as well.
Yes, absolutely. I think the two get together, get along very well, and that makes them a successful and productive combo. And, you know, Tommy reaps the benefit on the score sheet, so very, very good regular podium finisher this year, as Henri Assid gets now on the inside of Thomas Löflad, and he's done it.
He has. So Thomas Löflad was picked off his target list as car 211 picks up a drive-through penalty. That is the Alexei Komarov car from Scuderia Prague Racing. So rejoining unsafely is the reason for that drive-through penalty, and doubtless you'll see that advice on screen in due course as well. Quinn Wiedlisbach from Tommy Lindroth from Faisal Shayer then, and sure enough there is the drive-through penalty for the car of Alexei Komarov. Right, Tommy Lindroth under pressure now going into turn number 1 from Faisal Shayer. Faisal taking a look at the inside initially, then having to revert to the inside, and Tommy Lindroth just closing the door as he's right. Is protecting his track position in P2, and Tommy's string of good results, you know, actually chased our Fabrizio Fontana, our 488 Challenge champion, to the points. I mean, Tommy Lindroth in a very, very good position, really hauling some points, and I have to say, with you know, put on some fantastic performances. Fabrizio Fontana, who sadly is missing this weekend, he drove like a demon. There is no question about that, and he was coached by Stefano Guy, another young driver that made his name in the Ferrari Challenge. So Ernst Kirchmeier leading from Andreas Rizzi and James Wyland for our Shell drivers, but we're watching this battle for P2 in the 488s, which is between Tommy Lindroth, Faisal Shayer, and Friedrich Müller. He's not so far behind them either. Well, Tommy is steadfast, Nico, in his defense here.
Yeah, absolutely, and he has been under pressure for quite a few laps, but he holds it together and doesn't open a gap until this very moment. And there is Faisal Shayer on the inside. Tommy gives him racing room, tries to go for the switchback, but it's not there. And yeah, just as I was applauding his ability to hold his position, there it goes. So sorry, Tommy. And now Tommy has to be really careful as to not lose several positions in one go, as Friedrich Müller is trying to follow suit, and just to go through into the chicane is an optimal spot. And he tries and tries and tries, and again Tommy really well prefers not to clatter into the car, into the competitor, but rather finish the race.
Both times Tommy was going to turn in, wasn't he? And he actually, you're right, discretion the better part of valor. He chose to not turn in, which would have caused a collision on both of those overtakes. So credit to Tommy for doing that, and you know, respectful driving from each of our 488 Challenge drivers involved in that particular battle.
Yeah, and you could see on the second one, you could really see Fabienne react to that, and
yes.
It was a mixture of shock and certainly relief as well that there was no collision. But obviously, she would have liked Tommy to retain the position in those instances. But yeah, I think as a coach, you're kind of trying to teach your protege to be aggressive and steadfast, but equally to not risk an accident. It's kind of like a mixed message, I guess.
Henri Assid, while we were watching that, got past Thomas Gosner. He is driving like an extraordinary thing. And I'm just looking at the timing screen here, Nico, as Alexei Komarov has taken his drive-through penalty. Henri Assid is maybe 5 seconds down on Jim Wyland. A podium is not out of the question from Henri Assid, having taken a drive-through penalty. I mean, that would be up there with the with the Eric Chung win earlier in the year, having taken a drive-through penalty as well. I mean, you know, the pace Henri Acide has got. What have we got left in the race?
9 minutes or so, and
A lap.
yeah,
It's possible.
It's possible, and if our information is correct, then Henri Acide is flirting with the area in terms of the points haul that he has.
Yes.
That he might even clinch the championship today. We're not going to call it. We'll wait for the official confirmation of those behind the scenes who master everything and who know everything. But we're being told we're getting at least close.
Ooh, you can see how hard Henri was pushing then as he rolled the back of the car onto the curbs there. So he is on his way towards Jim Wyland. At the moment it is Ernest Kirkmeyer from Andreas Rizzi and Jim Wyland. They are the 1, 2, 3. Henri Acide, who took a drive-through penalty and therefore had to come from, I can't remember where he returned on track, maybe P11, P12. You know, he has, and I used the expression earlier on, cut through the pack like a knife through butter, and the Kessel Racing driver is in P4 right now. There he is. Every single lap is being driven like a quali lap plus. His lap times are extraordinary. And yeah, he is really after Jim Wyland. I mean, if he could get onto the podium, he would feel that, you know, he's at least rescued something from the race. If he's not on the podium, I think he might be, even though it's been an extraordinary race for him, he might be, you know, a bit disappointed.
Yeah. I think if he makes it onto the podium, obviously that's kind of like the difference. Being on the podium, off the podium, feels a lot different. But in any event, there is the provisional live championship standings that we have gotten confirmation, Dave.
That if Henri Acide stays in the position that he is in, then he would become champion. So doesn't even need to attack James Wyland, but he will.
Oh, of course he will, and the gap is down to about 3 seconds with 6 minutes, 45 seconds, and 1 lap remaining. So I'm sure that at least we will see that battle get interesting. We have a time penalty for the 160 car, and that is Andrzej Lewandowski for track limits. We haven't had any track limits indications in the previous races, so this is the first time, and unfortunately it hits one of our new entries to the series, our Polish competitor, but unfortunately by virtue of the fact that he had the drive-through penalty earlier, this result wasn't going to be the one for the mantelpiece anyway, unfortunately, but there's another race tomorrow for him.
Now, whilst we've been watching this, Quinn Wiedlisbach has all of a sudden got Faisal Shaier within 3/10 of him. So it's not all over in the 488 Challenge race either yet, because P1 is with that car of Quinn Wiedlisbach, who made up 5 places right at the very start of the race, but making up 3 places was Faisal Shaier, and Faisal Shaier is right behind him right now. So with 5.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, as near as makes no difference, all of a sudden, Quinn Wiedlisbach is going to have to stick his elbows out and make that 488 Challenge car a tad wider than it is to prevent Faisal Shaier from coming through, I would suggest. Let's see. At the moment, he's doing a good job, and of course, the more they do this, it will allow perhaps Friedrich Müller to get into the battle, and it becomes a 3-way invitation for P1, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. It's an option. Faisal Shaier has shown great pace ever since joining the Ferrari Challenge, and there is the man that is Henri Acide, and as we see some back-marking cars getting into play, and that really affects how James Wyland and Henri Acide conduct their battle, because they have to navigate the traffic, and they also have to be on the lookout. Especially James Wyland has to be wary of a charging Henri Acide, who in turn can't overlook the 488 cars right in front of him.
No, the cars and drivers do their very best to keep out of the way of the cars coming through, but of course you can't make your car just disappear. And right now, both those 488 Challenge drivers have made way for Jim Wyland and for Henri Acide. So with 4.5 minutes plus a lap remaining, Henri Acide running in P4 can see the very fast Jim Wyland car ahead of him. It was great to see James Wyland returning to the Ferrari Challenge here at the Nürburgring, coached by Konrad Grunewald, of course, Very successful driver in his own right and a great driver coach as well. As a big sideways moment there from Germano Salernitano behind Pino Frascaro. That was a power slide and a half, and make that Alexei Komarov it is, to be fair, that he's doing that sideways driving a la stunt show standard, truthfully. And Pino Frascaro in the 240 car. So the driver of the 211 car, bear in mind, Alexei Komarov, no racing at all until he came into the Ferrari Challenge with Scuderia Prague and put the car on pole position. You know, let's not take anything away from that. So Quinn Wiedler's back, and Faisal Shahir continuing to fight for P1 in the 488s. And right now, Henri Acide is within attacking distance of Jim Wyland.
Absolutely. Just to have a look to the front, Ernest Kirchmeier still 7.2 seconds to the good. Andreas Rizzi, then James Wyland and Henri Acide. So this is for P3, and Henri Acide having for the first time having a look at that on the inside, having to go on the outside. Can he repeat what he did earlier, or will he take a different approach? I think he's trying for the switchback, but that would put him on the outside for the next turn. But if he can stay alongside and committed, at the end of this very eternal left-hander, there is a right-hander backing, but he doesn't have to do and wait all the way.
Masterful driving, I have to say, Nico, from Henri Acide. Sometimes you see drivers when they get the, bit between their teeth, you know, where they've perhaps had misfortune, let's put it like that. Sometimes they drive like a thing possessed, don't they? And we are seeing that from Henri Acide this afternoon. So it's Kirchmeier from Andreas Rizzi and Henri Acide. We've got 2.25 minutes plus 1 lap. Even with the pace that Henri Acide is showing, Nico, I don't see him being able to get onto the tail of Andreas Rizzi unless something happens. And you can predict nothing until the fat lady has vocalized. But I don't. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's on the unlikely part of the
Faisal has gone through.
Yeah, indeed, there is Faisal, and he has taken the lead away from Quinn Wittelsbach. It was a huge margin, and now it's Friedrich Müller who's also coming calling, so it isn't over until it's over. And in the 488 challenge, ooh, there is another dive, and that was an ambitious one, and a very late one coming from Quinn Wittelsbach, trying to get back on terms with Faisal.
And who's the big beneficiary of that? Is it going to be Friedrich Müller?
Potentially. Well, everything happening now, and well, I think that was an ambitious move, if nothing else. For the moment, Quinn Wittelsbach is in P1 as...
Oh, Jim Wyland. That's James Wyland in the 118 car, Nico. Now, he was running P4. And, you know, there's been so much drama. Let's take a look at this in replay. Exit of the chicane. Well, to be fair, the 201 car there of Quinn Wittelsbach lost the back end a bit. That played into the hands of Faisal Shahir. And then diving down the inside of Faisal, going into turn number 1, was Quinn Wittelsbach trying to get that position back again. And yeah, you could see the ambition, but the execution of that was perhaps not what we necessarily expected. Now, just to add yet some more drama into this, Andrzej Lewandowski has picked up a time penalty of 25 seconds for causing a collision. You can see that on the screen. So that's going to drop him down the order and bring Alexander Nussbaumer, Christoph Herney and Ken Abe up the order significantly. I owe an apology to Ernest Kirchmeier because I've said so little about him as he's been leading this race, Nico, but there's been so much else going on everywhere else. But sorry, friend, you being out there with 7.5 seconds to the good means that we've probably not seen as much of you as you would have liked us to have seen. But there we are. I feel sorry for Faisal Shahir, who is indicative on our timing screen that he's stopped on and now can't continue, Nico, which would bring Tommy Lindroth back into a podium position, potentially.
Yeah, that's fair. Fair observation, yes. You have to feel for him because he just had taken the lead, and even if he'd been overtaken, it would have been good for him to finish the race in a leading position, but not to be. The clock has hit quadruple zeros, and the final lap is now underway. There there in the background, you can see a Henry Hassid car behind Manuel Agosta, but they're on different laps, so no confusion there.
So Ernst then through turn number 1 with no issues at all. He's 6.5 seconds to the good over Andreas Rizzi. And then Henry Hassid into P3. Now car 201 picks up a time penalty for causing a collision. It's
Wittelsbach.
Yeah.
And that now all of a sudden brings Friedrich Müller into the lead. And Tommy goes,
and elevates Tommy Lindroth as well.
Yeah, and Niels Branson should be at least on the verge of being part of the podium. We will have to see how the gaps exactly are once he comes across the timing line. But there is no questioning, Ernst Kirchmeier is leading this race, and he's leading it with a dominant margin. Henry Hassid onto the coattails of Andreas Rizzi with just a second between them, but I think it's going to be just enough for Andreas Rizzi to carry that across the line. We will see. The drama never stops, I guess.
Andreas Rizzi, of course, has been a race winner this year. If he could take a P2, he would love to do that. Obviously, if Henry Hassid could get by him, he's going to try. And he is a racing driver. That's what you expect. Ernst Kirchmeier has had a relatively quiet time out front, I have to say, for our Coppa Shell drivers, where everything else has been going on all around the place. It's been an extraordinary race in both the Shell and the 488s. So heading up towards the chicane now. Here comes Ernst Kirchmeier, throwing the car across the curbs. He has one more turn to do. And there you can see Andreas Rizzi and Henry Hassid getting really, really close, but not close enough probably, as Ernst Kirchmeier is victorious for Gesell Racing. Andreas Rizzi does take P2. Henry Hassid, a remarkable comeback to take P3. And, well, we, to the best of our knowledge, believe that with Henry Hassid finishing in that position, he seals the championship. Meantime, the 488 drivers, well, they cross the timing line for their race to conclude in just a moment. And with time penalties to be taken into consideration as well, as they head now towards the checkered flag. A lot of the cars that you can see are actually back marking in terms of those 488s. There you can see Tommy Lindroth, and Friedrich Müller is behind Tommy. So that means that theoretically Tommy would be the winner. So that would please Fabienne Volvend. Here we can see the 201 car now. The 201 car will be the first to cross the line, but Quinn Wietlisbach has got a 25-second time penalty. What's the gap between Quinn Wietlisbach and Tommy Lindroth? It's not enough. It's not enough. It's merely 10 seconds. So that means that Tommy would be victorious. Now, I'm having to dig deep into what is a failing memory brought about by age. I think that would be Tommy's first win this season. He's had P2s, he's had P3s, but I think it would be Tommy's first victory this season. So Quinn Wietlisbach then rounds the final turn and heads towards the checkered flag. So on track then, he takes the checkered flag. However, he's got this time penalty, and here comes Tommy Lindroth driving the 227 car for Go Motorsport Baron Racing. Tommy Lindroth is victorious in the 488 challenge here at the Nürburgring. He will be delighted. Now, surely Friedrich Müller, well, he seems to have dropped down the order. So that could bring Niels Branson into it. There's so much, Nico. I'm not sure I can really cope with it.
Yeah, and we're still waiting for Friedrich Müller. He's coming to the pit lane, actually, but he is being shown as being third in class, so that would put Tommy Lindroth, and with the penalty, Quinn Wietlisbach into P2, and Friedrich Müller takes the podium in the pit lane.
Oh, drama, drama, drama.
Remarkable race. A remarkable race with Henry Hassid taking a podium from a drive-through penalty. Ernst Kirchmeier with a fairly dominant win. Andreas Ritzi takes P2, and in the 488 class, I think you need to go to university to study and have an understanding of how that result came about. But it was hugely entertaining for us.
Absolutely amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing.
And to finish it off, we now have confirmation that indeed Henri Hessin will be able to celebrate not only a P3 but a championship in Coppa Shell.
There's Ernst. And look who's there to congratulate him. Giacomo Altoe. Henri Hessin is congratulated. Got a tidy sweat on, to be fair to him. He's worked hard for that. But well done. A podium and, of course, the championship as well. That was a race absolutely full and packed with everything, Nico.
Absolutely. It's only a Saturday, so we'll do it all again tomorrow with without the drama for the championship. That has been sealed. But, you know, sometimes that brings out the best in all the drivers when the points are done. The strategy is a little bit out the window. You just have free and flowing racing. Not that we had anything to complain about today. It was a race filled with highlights, and this is how it all ended.
Ernst Kirkmeyer taking the win from Andreas Ritzi and Henri Hessin. Then it was James Weiland, Thomas Loflad, Alexander Nussbaumer, Christoph Herney, Thomas Gerstner, Ken Abe, and Andrzej Lewandowski, who I think had 2 drive-through penalties. No, he had 1 drive-through penalty and a time penalty as well, but he managed to bank P10 in the end. The 488 win goes to Tommy Lindroth ahead of Quinn Wittelsbach and Friedrich Muller. Then it was Manuela Gostner, Nils Branson, Pino Frascaro ahead of Ray Acosta, Germano Salernitano, Alexei Komarov, Faisal Shaer, Mikael Martin, and regrettably Motohiko Isasaki, von Skeltermar, John Dillon, and Tibor Valiant all out of the race. I need something of a lie down after that one.
Well, there is Fabian Wolven congratulating Tommy Lindroth. His famous moniker, I am here, and that will apply to the top step of the podium. I think, as you said, I think he was a little bit dejected after the drive-through penalty, but I think Tommy had to work hard for this one.
It did, but he'll be absolutely thrilled, and Fabian is thrilled for him. That's what it's like with driver coach, and the teams as well, Nico. You enjoy the successes together. Let's hear from Ernst.
Ernst, congratulations, a very good and clear race for you. From the start, you stay away from all the risk. How do you feel to be here?
It was really absolutely great, because the history, my history for Nürburgring is really a bad one. I was started 4 times, and 3 times somebody pushed me out. So it was the first win here. And yes, I had luck, I had a good start, and all troubles was out of me. So I could drive, to be honest, my own race. And but I pushed always. I was always at the limit and made a lot of fun. And thanks God I won. I'm very, very happy about it.
Thank you, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Well done, Ernst. He says his history here at the Nürburgring is not littered with success. We're going to hear from Tommy Lindroth. Hold on to the bleep button. Tommy Lindroth then, who is victorious for the first time this season. And that's brilliant.
I think he may just not be ready for the interview. Looking how he exited the car, he felt like he might need a few more moments to relax. And
well done, Tommy. Good man, good man. He is one of the big characters in the Ferrari Challenge paddock, and there is Fabien. Then he's driver coach, and Fabien really has got the best out of Tommy. There's no question about that. And yeah, we're going to hear from Tommy as well. It will be fantastic. Just dread to think what he'll say, because as I say, he's one of the enigmatic characters. But there we are. Good luck with that, Ludovica. Let's hear from our 488 Challenge winner then, Tommy Lindroth.
Congratulations for this big result for you. How do you feel to be here and to win today in this historical track?
Oh, it's very nice. I like the track. I've been here 3 times before, I think. But it was very heavy race, very hot today. But I'm very satisfied. The car was very good. I thank for all mechanic and support I have. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Congratulations again.
Fabienne obviously having an influence in the driving and the media training as well.
Definitely, that was on brand.
Yeah, well done, Tommy.
We actually got a little bit of a update in terms of penalties. That actually one of the penalties for Andrei Lewandowski was rescinded, and Ken Abe was awarded, for lack of a better word, sad penalty. But here is a championship tribute.
Yes, let's see. Henri Assi. Here are the highlights of race 1 for Coppa Shell and the 488 Challenge cars then as they head down towards turn number 1. Henri Assi absolutely determined, but 1 or 2 cars at the behind those leading drivers in all sorts of strife right at the beginning of the race. Now 3 or 4 getting turned around and out of the race, sadly, including the likes of John Dillon and von Skeltmar and also Tibor Valin. Drive-through penalties for the car of Henri Assi, and that meant that Henri Assi, on returning to the track, getting past various cars as he would have to really try and overtake and maximize his points haul, and he was picking them off one by one, including Thomas Loflad here in the 152 car as he goes through, and next would be Thomas Goester, another one of Henri Assi's target, and one by one, including James Wyland, Henri Assi was making short work of doing all the overtaking across the course of the remainder of the race. And in the 488, there was also plenty going on too. And Faisal Shayer had done a really, really good job. James Wyland with a problem finds himself on the grass at the chicane. And Thomas Goester went around as well and made quite some contact with the tyre barriers. But Ernst Kirchmeier would win in the Shell category, and taking the win in the 488 category would be Tommy Lindroth. What a race it was for Ernst Kirchmeier, what a race it was for Thomas Lindroth. So here we can see the race statistics then. Total overtakes in Coppa Shell, 32. Total overtakes in 488, 26. Wow. Best top speeds came from Alexander Nussbaumer and Alexei Komarov, neither of the drivers that will feature on the podium, remarkably. So it is to the podium that we will be going next. Michele Mambelli will be bringing the drivers out onto the podium then. Taking P3, Henri Assi.
One of the happiest P3s of his career, I would say.
Look at Motohiko Isasaki, first to be down there to applaud all the drivers. And there we can see Ernst Kirchmeier climbing to the top step of the podium. National anthem plays out. So Ernest Kirchmeier P1, P2, Andreas Rizzi by P3, and enough for the championship, Henri Assi. Of course, Kessel Racing will be represented as well for the Coppa Team's trophy. Here's Tony Verlander, Ferrari ambassador driver and on-air buddy of mine. He makes the trophy presentation to Henri Assi for P3.
Trophy for the second driver on the podium.
For Andreas Rizzi then, P2 trophy is presented by Tony Vilander.
And the trophy for the winner, S. Kirchmeier.
Ernest then receives his race winner's trophy.
Been a while for Ernst, but feels so much sweeter, I guess. And yeah.
And of course, Kessel received the Coppa Team's trophy. And photographs being taken. Drivers all get to the top step of the podium if they can.
All together, please.
Well, I don't mean if they can. I mean if there's room on the podium. Of course, they're all physically able to do that. But
Okay, photos and 5
so,
minutes.
who's going to be first with the champagne? It's got to be Acid, surely. Yes, it is. Henri, then champion. And, make sure that everyone celebrates with him.
Yeah, and the team representative is not legging it, so that's a rarity. And
You know,
a brave man.
Vilander did.
For sure.
He's quick in a car. He's quick on foot as well. Right, P3, Henri Acid. P2, Andreas Rizzi. Keep on script, Dave. And P1 for Kessel Racing. We will see the car of Ernst Kirchmeier. There it is. Up next, we will have the podium for our 488 drivers, which will contain Friedrich Müller, Quinn Wittelsbach, and Tommy Lindroth. In the Coppa Shell Drivers' Championship, then, Henri Acid finish that race on 149 points. That puts him 57 ahead of Manuel Agostner, which means he cannot be caught for the championship. Tibor Valent, P3. John Dillon, very close behind, P4. Then it's Alexander Nussbaumer, Thomas Gostner, Andreas Rizzi, and Christoph Herney. Ahead of von Skeltermar, James Weiland, Motohiko Isasaki, Ernst Kirchmeier, Willem van der Vorm, Thomas Loflad, and Ray Acosta. Shows you how many drivers we've had in the Shell category. Ken Abe, Michael Martin, Luigi Alessandri, Corinna Gostner, Andrzej Lewandowski, and Murat Kuhadaroglu. Up next then, as I mentioned then, it will be the 488 Challenge podium. And it will be Friedrich Müller we see that takes to step 3. Then it is Quinn Wittelsbach. And on the top step of the podium, well done, Tommy. Here comes Tommy Lindroth.
Il nostro applauso, our club, so the winner on the podium, GOM Motorsport Baron Racing, team manager.
Who's it going
And
to
the
be?
trophy presented by Tony
Ines.
Lander, our ambassador
Ines
driver,
Rule.
Ferrari ambassador driver.
Tony
for
Vilander, once
Friedrich
again,
Müller
Ferrari
on
ambassador
the
driver,
podium.
making the trophy presentation. First of all,
The
to
trophy for the
Friedrich
driver.
Müller.
Second
Well done, sir.
race, Quinn Wittelsbach.
And Quinn Wittelsbach receives trophy. Well done.
And the trophy for the driver number 1, Tommy Lindroth.
Tommy Lindroth, race winner. Well done, Tommy.
And the trophy for team manager for the team GOM Motorsport Baron Racing
And
team.
Go Motorsport Baron Racing Ines receives the trophy. I would say that Tommy will be quickest with the champagne, but that's more probably to take a slug of it because he's hot.
Presents a trophy
Ah.
Pirelli for the winner.
Elisa
Tommy
Capelli, who we had lunch with
Lindroth.
today, Pirelli Marketing Motorsport, makes
Trofeo
the
Pirelli. Thank you, Elisa.
Pirelli presentation to Tommy.
Okay, near the podium, please, all driver on the first step of the podium, please use
There
your
is
trophy.
Motohiko Isasaki.
And, if it's possible, rise your trophy. Okay, perfect. Photos and pictures from Nürburgring, race 1.
So race 1 for our Shell and 488 Challenge drivers
wait the
done.
driver 5 seconds.
Oh, last. I was hoping we were going to see the champagne celebrations. Not to worry. Friedrich Müller, P3 for Go Motorsport Engstler. P2 for CDP, D&C Racing. That will be Quinn Wiedlisbach. And P1 for Gome Motorsport and Baron Racing, Tommy Lindroth. And in the Drivers' Championship, Fabrizio Fontana, well, he's unassailable in the Drivers' Championship, but Tommy Lindroth in P2 in the Drivers' Championship, ahead of Pino Frascaro, who is P3. Then it's Ivan David Mari, and there you can see the rest of the order there of the 488 Evo Drivers' Championship. There's been a lot of drivers across the championship this year, 2024. So there we have it then. The Shell and 488 Challenge race is done and dusted. Thank you so much for watching. From Nico and from myself, thank you. We will be back with more racing tomorrow. Make sure you join us for that if you can. Bye-bye for now.